Welcome back to our channel, where we bring you the most spine-chilling and hair-raising stories you can find. In today's video, we bring you the long-awaited sequel to one of our most popular stories, The Haunted Dollhouse. The Wilson family had just moved into their new home, a beautiful Victorian house with a spacious attic. As they were unpacking boxes, the youngest member of the family, Lily, discovered an old dollhouse hidden away in a corner of the attic. The dollhouse was exquisite, with intricate detailing and realistic miniature furniture. Lily was instantly drawn to it and begged her parents to let her bring it down to the living room. They obliged, thinking it was just a harmless toy. But strange things began to happen. Doors would slam shut on their own. Objects would move by themselves, and the family would hear unexplained whispers in the night. The parents grew increasingly worried about Lily's obsession with the dollhouse, but she refused to let it go. One night, Lily woke up to find one of the dolls had moved on its own. As the days went by, the family experienced more and more paranormal activity in the house, and the dolls in the dollhouse seemed to be trying to communicate with Lily. The family began to research the dollhouse's history and learned that it was built by a man named Edgar, who was known to be eccentric and reclusive. He had no family and spent most of his time creating dollhouses and miniature furniture. The dollhouse in their attic was one of Edgar's earliest creations and was meant to be a gift for his niece, who had passed away before he could give it to her. As they delved deeper into Edgar's story, the family discovered that his mental state had deteriorated in the years leading up to his death. He had become convinced that the dolls in his creations were alive and began to hear voices. The family realized that Lily had unwittingly communicated with the spirits of the doll's former owners and that Edgar's obsession with the dollhouse had been passed on to her. They knew they had to break the connection before it was too late, but as they tried to destroy the dollhouse, they realized that the spirits were not willing to let go so easily. They saw apparitions of the doll's former owners and heard their voices whispering in the night. The family had to find a way to break the connection once and for all before it consumed them all. The Wilson family spent days researching and consulting with experts on paranormal activity and ghostly possessions. They tried everything from exorcisms to contacting mediums, but nothing seemed to work. Meanwhile, Lily's obsession with the dollhouse grew stronger by the day. She spent every waking moment playing with it and talking to the dolls, which seemed to respond to her in their own way. The family knew they had to do something drastic before it was too late. They decided to take the dollhouse and bury it deep in the woods, hoping that the spirits would follow it and leave them alone. They waited for nightfall and set out on their mission. They hiked through the dense forest, carrying the dollhouse with them. As they went deeper into the woods, the air grew colder, and the trees seemed to close in around them. Suddenly, they heard strange noises coming from the dollhouse. The dolls inside were moving on their own, and Lily was talking to them as if they were alive. The family quickened their pace, but they soon realized they were lost. They couldn't find their way back to the trail, and the forest seemed to go on forever. Just when they thought they were doomed, they saw a faint light in the distance. They followed it, and it led them to a clearing where they saw a figure standing in the center. The figure was Edgar, the man who had built the dollhouse all those years ago. He looked older and more frail than ever, but he seemed to recognize the family. He told them that the spirits of the doll's former owners had followed them to the woods and were now in control of the dollhouse. They had been seeking revenge on Edgar for creating them and trapping them in the dollhouse for so long. Edgar begged the family to help him break the curse and free the spirits. They had to perform a ritual that involved burning the dollhouse and offering the spirits a way out. The family hesitated, but they knew they had no other choice. They lit a fire and threw the dollhouse into it, watching as it burned to the ground. As they did, they heard the voices of the spirits crying out in anguish and then fading away. When the fire died down, the family felt a sense of relief. They had broken the connection between Lily and the dollhouse, and the spirits were finally at peace. But as they turned to leave, they saw Edgar standing in the shadows, watching them with a smile on his face. He had finally found peace too, knowing that his creations were free from their prison. The Wilson family left the woods that night, never to return. They knew they had experienced something beyond explanation, and they would never forget the horrors they had faced. Years passed, and the Wilson family had long since moved on from their ordeal in the woods. They had tried their best to forget about the haunted dollhouse and the spirits that had once haunted them. But one day, Lily received a package in the mail. It was a small, intricately crafted dollhouse, almost identical to the one they had burned in the woods. Lily was hesitant to open the package, but curiosity got the best of her. She carefully unwrapped the dollhouse and examined it closely. It was as if someone had recreated the original dollhouse down to the smallest detail. The family was immediately on guard, wondering who could have sent them the dollhouse. They were sure it was some kind of sick joke, or worse, a trap set by the spirits that had haunted them before. But as they watched, they saw something strange happening. The dolls inside the dollhouse were moving on their own, just as they had before. They heard whispers coming from inside, and the air around them grew cold. It was then that they realized that the spirits had not been banished from their lives after all. They had returned, and they were seeking revenge. The family tried everything they could to rid themselves of the haunted dollhouse once again, but nothing seemed to work. The spirits were stronger than ever, and they seemed to be growing more and more powerful with each passing day. The family soon realized that they had no choice but to confront the spirits once and for all. They gathered together in the living room, with the haunted dollhouse in the center, and performed a ritual they had learned during their previous ordeal. As they did, they saw the spirits of the dolls' former owners begin to materialize before them. But this time, they were different. They were not angry or vengeful. Instead, they looked sad and defeated. The family realized that they had misjudged the spirits all along. They were not seeking revenge or trying to harm them. Instead, they were simply lost and looking for a way out of their prison in the dollhouse. The family made a decision that day. They would keep the haunted dollhouse, but they would treat it with the respect it deserved. They would talk to the spirits and listen to their stories. And in return, the spirits would help them in ways they could not even imagine. From that day on, the Wilson family lived in harmony with the haunted dollhouse and the spirits that inhabited it. They had learned that sometimes the things that scare us the most are not always the things we need to fear. Sometimes they are just looking for a way to be heard. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed our story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for notifications.